Millions of people start their day by drastically cutting calories, tracking every meal, and pushing through hours of cardio. Yet, despite weeks of strict adherence, the number on the scale refuses to move. This stall happens because the human body does not operate like a simple calculator. The standard calories in versus calories out equation assumes that weight loss is purely mathematical, ignoring the complex biological signals that determine how energy is actually used. To understand why the body resists weight loss, we have to look past the bank account metaphor and step into the chemistry lab. At a molecular level, weight regulation is governed by specific hormonal shifts that prioritize either energy use or energy preservation. The body manages two primary energy stores. There is a small, high-turnover supply of glycogen in the liver and muscles for immediate needs, and a massive reserve of long-term energy stored in adipose tissue. The transition between these two stores is controlled by a specific hormonal signal. When this signal is mismanaged, it creates a biochemical obstruction that prevents the body from accessing the adipose reserve, regardless of how few calories are consumed. Standard weight loss advice often frames this plateau as a failure of discipline. However, looking at the hormonal barriers involved suggests that the problem may be rooted in how these molecular signals are being triggered. That primary signal is a hormone called insulin. While usually discussed regarding blood sugar, researchers classify insulin as a reponic hormone, derived from the Latin repano, meaning to store. Its evolutionary role is the conservation of systemic energy. When blood glucose rises, insulin binds to cell membrane receptors, allowing the cell to take in glucose for fuel or storage. Simultaneously, insulin inhibits lipolysis by reducing levels of cyclic adenosine phosphate, or CAMP, effectively shutting down the primary exit route for stored energy. Constant exposure to insulin, driven by frequent snacking on processed foods, causes cells to lose responsiveness. They effectively develop a biological callus, requiring more hormone to achieve the same metabolic effect. To compensate for this resistance, the pancreas produces even higher levels of insulin. This results in elevated basal insulin, a high background level of the hormone that remains in the blood even while you sleep. With basal insulin constantly elevated, the body remains in a perpetual state of energy storage. Because the hormone is constantly blocking the breakdown of fat, the body cannot access its internal reserves, leading to persistent hunger and fatigue. While food is the primary driver of insulin, external stressors can independently force the body into this same storage-heavy state. Chronic stress triggers a near-constant release of cortisol. This survival hormone increases appetite and promotes abdominal fat storage by driving insulin resistance in the midsection. Clinical studies show sleep deprivation has a similar impact. After just 3 nights of 4-hour sleep, blood fatty acids, which usually dip overnight, remain elevated throughout the morning. These elevated fatty acids interfere with the insulin signal, reducing overall insulin sensitivity by 23%. By disrupting these pathways, chronic stress and lack of sleep create a biochemical environment similar to early-stage diabetes, making fat loss difficult even if the diet itself is technically perfect. Addressing biological resistance requires a shift from calorie counting to the active restoration of insulin sensitivity. By lowering basal insulin, the body can finally begin the process of actively breaking down stored adipose tissue. One of the most effective tools for this is food sequencing. Research shows that simply changing the order in which you consume a meal can significantly alter the resulting insulin response. Starting a meal with fiber-rich vegetables creates a physical barrier in the intestine that slows the absorption of sugars. When proteins and fats are eaten next, and carbohydrates are saved for last, the resulting glucose spike is flattened by up to 73%. Time-restricted eating, limiting meals to an 8 to 10 hour window, aligns metabolism with our internal clock. This 14 to 16-hour fasting gap lets insulin return to baseline. This low insulin window provides the only time the body can prioritize fat breakdown and cellular repair. This strategic timing shifts the body from a constant state of storage to a consistent daily rhythm of energy mobilization. This effect can be further enhanced by incorporating light movement immediately following a meal, such as a 10-minute walk. Movement activates a muscular pathway called GLUT4. This pathway allows active muscles to vacuum glucose directly out of the bloodstream to be used as fuel, functioning completely independently of insulin. By utilizing this muscular pathway, the body clears glucose more efficiently, which significantly reduces the total amount of insulin the pancreas needs to release after a meal. Coupling these dietary shifts with consistent sleep and stress management halts the cortisol-driven signals that contribute to systemic insulin resistance. Over time, the combination of sequencing, timing, and post-meal movement heals the metabolism. The biological callus on the cells softens, allowing them to respond to insulin signals with much lower concentrations of the hormone. Long-term weight management is the byproduct of aligning daily habits with the body's existing biochemical pathways. When the internal chemistry is balanced, the body can naturally access and utilize it